there's a little bit of feedback from the last session. So one of our nuns said that she decided to become a nun and not a government policymaker and not a CEO of a corporation, because two things. One is that unless we lessen or eliminate our self-centeredness, it's very difficult in society to make changes that are long-lasting. Changes are possible, definitely, but long-lasting, and to have all the change that you would like happen is very difficult unless we really work on ourselves and eliminate our self-centeredness, because that's what it all comes down to. And then second was, yes, that governments and corporations always base their policies on money and what is going to be more effective financially for them. So she was saying she wants to do things because they're the right thing to do, the ethical thing, the kind and compassionate thing to do, and not because they make money, And we see that that is truly usually the criteria that people use in making decisions in the government, in corporations, sometimes even in families and human relationships, It all boils down to money, which is really very, very unfortunate, because it's based on the false supposition that money equals happiness, which we know isn't true. So that was a little bit of the feedback I thought to share with you. And then just, if we've been thinking about some of the ideas that came up, here's some ordinary citizen who's just trying to feed their family and make a living, and they're doing everything in a legal way, and they figured that the government would regulate things if it weren't working, or even that capitalism would self-regulate and the undesirable thing would get phased out naturally. So you're somebody who thinks like that. Then the question is, does that mean that you can just say, oh, I have no ethical responsibility? Okay, so either, like I was saying last time, as an individual, just in terms of what you're going to do with your life and what you feel comfortable with, and second, as a person who is a member, or an employee of a corporation or a policy team or who knows what, or the shop that sells the things, you're an employee there. So, what is our ethical obligation or responsibility in those kind of cases? And like I said, to me, none of these things are political. They are ethical issues. And so, the Buddha taught about right livelihood. And so he was saying, to earn your living in an honest way. Okay, so you're not cheating or lying or stealing from somebody else. But also to do something that isn't damaging to society in general or damaging to individuals. Okay. So then the question comes, well, if you're somebody who sells junk food, are you damaging individuals? And somebody could say, well, no, I'm not. It's the people who are making the food who are damaging individuals. But the people who are working in the factories doing all of this, they would say, I'm not responsible because some other people are making the policies. And then you go to the people who are the CEOs, and they say, I'm not responsible. I just make the stuff, and it's people's own responsibility if they decide to eat it or not. And then you go to the person who eats it, and they say, well, this is damaging to me, and they didn't tell me, how damaging it was, which means I didn't read the labels, or I didn't really take it to heart, or whatever, or sometimes they don't, I mean, lots of times companies don't tell you. When you get one of these ready-made lunches that's been sitting in the storage unit for 6 weeks, it doesn't say, beware of processed food, on it, or anything. So what you look at is everybody in the scenario as saying, I have no ethical responsibility, and yet at the end, people's health are getting damaged, and especially in the case of children, who certainly can't read the labels and don't know how to interpret them even if they could. They're eating this stuff. So then where, then do we all just say, well, it's a dependent arising, therefore I don't have any responsibility? That sounds like a good thing, doesn't it? It's a dependent arising, so it's not all me. I can point the finger at somebody else, or I can say nobody has any responsibility. But something's wrong in that kind of model, isn't it? Something's wrong with that. And so, many people may say, well, I don't feel comfortable working in a company or selling things that, that sells junk food, or that a company, and working in a factory that makes armaments, or that sells guns or sells weapons or whatever, And when the Buddha was talking about right livelihood, he specifically mentioned weapons, as something that we shouldn't be involved in making and distributing and so on. So weapons, any kind of chemicals that kill people or kill other living beings. And, so somebody could say, well, I have a really hard time finding a job if I don't work in that kind of business. But then, my reply to that is, really? There are so many jobs in the world, and you really couldn't find another job? And they say, well, not making it that much money. I say, okay, well, are you sure, first of all, that you couldn't make that much money doing another kind of job? You're a talented, intelligent person. I'm sure you could. And second of all, even if you had to take a little bit of a pay decrease, do you think in the end that that might make you happier in knowing that you're not contributing directly to the harm of other living beings? In other words, is happiness just measured by your paycheck, or is happiness measured also in your job satisfaction, knowing that you're doing something that benefits others rather than something that harms them? Mm-hmm. And for some people, it's really scary for them to think that happiness is more than your paycheck. Because they've been brought up to think that you're successful only on the basis of your paycheck or your status in a company, and usually those two things go together. They don't think of a successful life as being based on inner peace. They don't think of a successful life being based on, ethical conduct and feeling good about yourself. Or, having a successful life being based on compassion towards other living beings. Now, nobody ever thought to teach them that when they were growing up. And our society certainly doesn't encourage it. This sounds like it should be the topic of an op-ed for a New York Times piece. You know, really. I should write to, what is Nicholas Kristof? He's one good journalist, you know, maybe he would take it up. Yeah? But really, you know, what is it that is the mark of success? And what is it that we mean by happiness? Okay? So I think this is all related to the issue of ethical responsibility for how we make a living. So it's something to think about. It may make people a bit uncomfortable to think about it. There's nothing wrong with being uncomfortable. Yeah, we always think if it's uncomfortable, then I shouldn't do it. But, you know, taking medicine when you're sick can be uncomfortable. Having surgery when something's wrong inside of your body is uncomfortable, but you do it because you know in the end it's better. So I think also this kind of self-examination is good, even though it may challenge some of our preconceptions. I think in the end it can lead us to having a happier, more peaceful, and more successful life.